drone. And when they would pass right directly overhead of the drone, they would dump fuel on it. And then one of the jets was making another pass, and this time he cut it too close and clipped the propeller of the drone, sending it crashing down into the Black Sea. The drone is a total loss. According to the Air Force, the Russian fighter jet nearly crashed, but apparently both the Russian fighters survived the incident. So this is not the first time the U.S. has conducted an intelligence patrol over the Black Sea, either before or during the war in Ukraine. I mean, it's a fairly routine operation, and it's also fairly routine that planes, sometimes they're unmanned, sometimes they're manned, will be intercepted by Russian jet fighters. Usually, those intercepts are what the military calls safe and professional. There's nothing dangerous about them. They pull alongside, observe, and don't interfere with the flight of the American aircraft. This time, they were clearly out to harass that drone, and probably did not intend to clip the propeller, because that was extremely dangerous for the pilot of that Russian jet. But it just cut it a little too close and sent the drone down into the Black Sea. Now, one of the capabilities of that Reaper drone is that it sends back live video of everything it's seeing. So all of this was captured on video, and we're waiting to see if the Pentagon is going to release that video.
All of this is very interesting, David. Thank you for providing all this context. Luckily, this was an unmanned drone, and we're not talking about any loss of life, but U.S. officials still called this a dangerous situation. This was in international airspace. As you describe it, there was some level of Russian aggression, at least towards this unmanned U.S. aircraft. So what happens now?
Well, the U.S. will obviously protest this to Russia, but when something like this happens, you sort of got to get right back up on the horse and send another patrol aircraft out there, whether it's manned or unmanned. I don't know, but to establish the principle that you can't be chased away. These are international waters, and they have as much right to be there as the Russian fighter jets. Obviously, Russia resents it, because the purpose of that drone was to gather intelligence about what the Russians are up to in Ukraine.
David, you mentioned the fact that in the past, it's not uncommon to have aircraft that may spot one of these drones and to essentially get a closer look, but that this time was different because of, as you described it, the dumping of the fuel on the drone and then the jet getting too close and clipping the drone. If that's the case, I wonder, does this have any kind of recent precedent? Has this happened before in recent memory?
I don't remember a Russian fighter jet or any fighter jet dumping fuel on an American aircraft. One of the other things these jets were doing was, they'd come over top of the drone, and after dumping the fuel, they would get right in front of the drone and buffet it with its jet exhaust. And that is a fairly common technique. You cut in front of a patrol plane, and then you will hit the afterburners and cause a wake that will jostle them around. That too is considered unsafe. In these incidents, you sort of never know whether it was a hot-dogging pilot who simply misjudged, or whether this was a pilot doing exactly as he had been told
Right. That's the question.
by his commanders. And when you just look at this, I don't know this, but when you just look at this, if they're out there dumping fuel, I mean, this sounds much more premeditated than just a hot dogging pilot out to have a little fun.
Right. And the question would be then, following orders and who put those orders into place. And then the question is,
What
why?
happens next?
Why right now? All right. A lot of open questions. David Martin, thank you so much, David. We are following breaking news from Washington, where CBS News has confirmed the Department of Justice has officially launched an investigation into what caused last week's collapse of Silicon Valley Bank. We are told this is in the very early stages.
Regional bank stocks are rebounding today. They were hit hard by the shockwaves of Silicon Valley Bank and Signature Bank failing. Many other regional banks had to halt trading yesterday after their stocks tanked. Well, this all comes as the consumer price index climbed to 0.4% in February. And inflation is up 6% from the same time last year.
And for that, let's bring in Megan Green. She is a senior fellow at Brown University.